Instructor Vexler stood at the center of the Galactic Alliance Combat Academy's main training arena. His forearms crossed in what the other species had learned to recognize as profound disappointment. The Kravic warrior had trained soldiers from 47 different species over his 3 decades of service, and he prided himself on being able to break even the most arrogant recruits within their first week. But these humans were something else entirely. Again, Vexler clicked, his mandibles twitching with irritation. You collapse after only 20 Talsics of combat simulation. How does your species expect to survive real warfare? The human recruit, a female named Chen, pulled herself up from the padded floor. Her face was flushed red, a peculiar response Vexler had learned indicated their bodies were overheating. She was breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling in rapid succession. With respect, sir, Chen said between breaths, that simulation was set to 3 times our planet's gravity. Yes, Vexler replied flatly. Standard training protocol. We train at average galactic conditions. Earth is a Category 7 death world. You should find this ... easier. A few of the other alien recruits chittered nervously. Everyone knew about the Deathworlders. Humans came from a planet so hostile that it had been quarantined by galactic law until they developed faster-than-light travel on their own. High gravity, volatile weather, aggressive megafauna, and thousands of microscopic organisms that could kill most sapient species within hours. Yet here in the controlled environment of the Academy, the humans seemed ... ordinary, weak, even. Permission to speak freely, sir? Another human recruit stepped forward. This one was male, designated as Martinez. Vexler's optical cluster focused on him. Granted, I've been here for 3 weeks, sir. We haven't had a single rest day. No recovery time. Back home, even our elite soldiers get recovery periods. Vexler's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You think the Kresh Swarm will give you recovery time? You think the Void Reavers will pause their assault because you need to rest? No, sir, Martinez said carefully. But I think we'd perform better if we could show you what humans do for recovery. Vexler's interest piqued. In all his years, no recruit had ever made such a request. Explain. Let us do a human workout routine, sir. Just one. Our way. Then we'll run your simulation again. The other instructors would mock him for this. Allowing recruits to dictate training was unheard of. But Vexler was curious. Perhaps understanding their primitive training methods would give him insight into their weaknesses. Very well, he said. Show me this workout. The next morning, Vexler arrived at the training arena to find all 20 human recruits waiting. They had moved the combat simulators aside and laid out various crude implements, heavy metal bars, weighted plates, and resistance bands. We call this functional fitness training, sir, Chen explained. A basic routine. Nothing special. Proceed, Vexler said, settling onto his observation platform. Several other instructors had gathered, alerted by the unusual request. This would be entertaining, at least. What followed defied Vexler's understanding of physical training. The humans began with something called burpees, throwing themselves to the ground, launching back up and jumping, repeatedly, for 10 Talsics. Then they moved to lifting the heavy bars loaded with weights, hoisting them above their heads dozens of times. Their faces turned from red to purple, sweat pouring off them in quantities that would indicate severe dehydration in most species. But they didn't stop. They pulled themselves up on bars until their chins cleared the top. They held their bodies rigid in positions called planks until their entire frame shook. They ran, they jumped, they lifted, they pushed, they pulled. And when Vexler thought, surely they must be reaching the end of their endurance, they began something called a finisher, a sprint carrying heavy weights up and down the arena stairs. This is suicide, muttered Instructor Calsoon, Athenian observer. They're destroying their own muscle tissue. Their cardiac systems must be in failure. But the humans kept going. 70 Talsics later more, and 3 times longer than they'd lasted in yesterday's combat simulation, the humans finally stopped. Several collapsed. Some vomited. All of them were trembling, their bodies pushed to what any medical officer would have declared critical failure. Vexler descended from his platform, genuinely disturbed. "Why?" he demanded. "Why would you damage yourselves like this?" Martinez, lying flat on his back, actually laughed. "That's not damage, sir. That's improvement. We do this 3-4 times a week back home. Sometimes daily. Possible. Your species would have gone extinct." "No, sir," Chen said, sitting up slowly. "That's how we got strong enough to survive our planet in the first place. Our ancestors did this with their own body weight. We're just carrying on the tradition." Vexler felt something he hadn't experienced in years: doubt. "Rest today," he heard himself say. "Tomorrow, we run the combat simulation again." 2 days later, the humans returned to the standard training. Vexler had reviewed the biological data collected during their workout. Their heart rates had exceeded levels that would kill most species. Their oxygen consumption had spiked to numbers that suggested either measurement error or impossibility. Their muscle tissue had indeed been damaged only to begin repairing itself at an accelerated rate within hours. This time, when the simulation began, something was different. Chen moved through the 3 times gravity like it was nothing. Martinez dodged plasma fire with reflexes that seemed prescient. The entire human unit operated with a cohesion and efficiency that hadn't been there before. They lasted 40 talsics, then 50, then 60. When they finally finished, the scenarios successfully. Vexler stood silent. "Permission to speak, sir?" Chen asked, not even breathing hard. "Granted. We weren't weak before, sir. We were exhausted. Humans don't get stronger by pushing through exhaustion without end. We get stronger by pushing hard, then recovering, then pushing harder. It's called progressive overload. It's how we built every muscle, every skill, every achievement in our history." Vexler looked at the human. Standing before him, this creature from a world so hostile it had forged an entire species into something unprecedented. They didn't survive their planet by being the strongest or the fastest. They survived by being smart enough to know that even strength needed wisdom. "I see," Vexler said quietly, then louder, so all the instructors could hear. "New training protocol, effective immediately. All recruits receive 1 recovery day per 6 training days. We will incorporate Deathworlder training principles into the standard curriculum." The other instructors stirred in surprise, but Vexler silenced them with a gesture. "Dismissed," he told the humans. As they left, Martinez paused. "Sir, what we did was just a basic workout. Want to see what we call advanced training?" Vexler's mandibles clicked, but this time, it might have been something like respect. "Perhaps," he said. "Let me recover first." The humans laughed, and for the first time since they'd arrived, Vexler understood he hadn't been training soldiers from a death world. He'd been trying to train Deathworld soldiers with methods designed for everyone else. The difference was everything. On Earth, they had a saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." In the wider galaxy, nothing had ever needed to be quite that strong. Until now.